Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're featuring a rather cool looking Laco. Now this is part of their squad range and this is the Atacama, and I think it just looks wicked. It's available in two different flavors. We have, this is the entry one, being that it is a quartz model and available for under £500. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's quite an affordable piece from the German brand. And there is also a automatic version for those who want that. Now for me, I personally think every collection should have a good quartz watch in there because they make great grab and go watches. It's one of these when you want to go out, you want to change your watch and you don't want the hassle of setting up all the time, you can just simply pick up a quartz model and you know it should be on time. So that's one reason why I think everyone should have at least one quartz in their collection. But anyway, before we get too far into this review, I've got to say a big thank you to the team over at First Class Watches at Kenilworth. Tons of stock, great friendly staff, really worth popping in if you're in the Midlands area. If you're a little bit further afield, well, don't worry, I'll leave a link in the description below and at the bottom of the page now. All I ask is that you do mention the channel when you contact them. So let's talk sizes first. Now this is a bit of a strange one because it's a big watch at 46mm, but honestly do not let that put you off because look at the big kind of taper you've got going on the back here. The actual back of the watch, a bit which sits on your wrist, is around about 34-35mm, and the thickness of the watch, I should point out, is 10.6mm, but the lug to lug, this is like the shortest point across the watch. Now I would say it's here, and that's coming in at a very respectable and very wearable 44mm. So don't let, it's a bit like the Seiko Tuna thing where they're big watches but the lug to lug means, a short lug to lug means it will fit on very small wrist with no problem at all. And exactly the same has to be said about this thing. The strap on this, which we'll talk about more later, is 22mm. Now the dial, let's face it, there's just loads going on in this dial and I kind of like it. It's a little bit special. You kind of, every time you look at it, you see different things, you know, relating to it. And this one is very cool because what we've got going on here is obviously we've got our hour and minute hand there and second hand. Now they are all differently designed, which is a little bit funky and different, but we also have a GMT hand down here. So where we have the normal hours going on here, we have the GMT hours going on around there. So for those who, you know, basically aren't sure what all that means, is you've got the ability to read two different time zones. Now, at the normal time at the moment, obviously, is, what is that? 13 minutes past 10. Now, all you do with this GMT hand is read the minutes as you normally would, but it's 13 minutes past 10 in the morning here. Now, you can independently set this. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the dial first. We have this great big sculpted chapter ring going on here with the minute track on there, and I must say all this is loomed. It's got a cracking amount of loom. It really does look good, and we have a date window down at the bottom here. So anyway, let me show how you actually manipulate this, and we do have a crown up here which we'll talk about a little bit more in a second. But if I pull this out, so I've gone to just the first click at the moment. Now if I turn it that way, we have, as you can see, the date change. Now if I turn it the other way, now this is a little bit unusual. You have the ability to change the GMT hand, but what makes it a little bit more unusual is it's infinite. So I can move it to wherever. Now there are some countries out there which have a half hour designation when it comes to the actual time settings. What I mean by that is if you go Greenwich Mean Time, you might have some countries, the rest of Europe's +1, but you might have some countries which are 7.5 or 7.5 or whatever. And this gives you the ability to set that wherever you want it to be. So it's kind of quite a cool system of doing it. So I'll just put that to where I think 1/4 past is. There we go. And so that's how you operate that. Now, it gets... actually, I'll leave it out and you'll see why. The bezel on it... Well, so first of all, I should say the crystal. I believe it is sapphire on here with AR coating. It does... it looks really good. Flat sapphire on it. Looks all kind of great. But the bezel. Have a listen to this. Let's hold this. It's really quite a cool sounding bezel. Now, is there back play if I go there? No. What it does, it locks into position. It's a 60-minute click on it here. So each click of this is 1 minute. And it does feel really solid. But actually, it's a tiny, tiny bit of back plate, but minimal. Now, what makes this a little bit different is look at the readings we have around here. So let's put that back there. Sorry, because it will drive me mad otherwise. Now, at first, you might not recognize what this is, 5155104. Now, what that actually gives you the ability to do is have this as a count up or countdown bezel. So if you want to do it as a countdown bezel, and you want to set it for, I don't know, let's go 35 minutes countdown, you can actually have this and you miss the 1 out, so 35. So it's quite a cool way of doing it. Now, if I want to do a count up, so what I mean by a countdown, 35 minutes and it go to there. And that's how you actually use it. So if you have 35 minutes, I would say parking, because let's face it, it's more likelihood of us using that than as an actual dive watch. So let's go, I don't know, say you got to leave somewhere in 30 minutes. So you line that up with that, and when a minute hand hits there, you've hit 30 minutes. Simple, silly, but I like it. And then when you want to use it as a count up, you simply align the triangle with the actual minute hand, and you don't use the last digit. So there, you've got 5, 10, 15, and you see how you kind of use it that way. So it takes a little bit of getting used to it at first, but it's quite a cool system of doing it, and it gives it that. And this is what I find with this watch. It keeps, there's little things you notice more and more, which I think gives it a kind of cool, look about it. If I line that back up there, one thing you will also notice, there is radial brushwork going on around that bezel. So it does look quite cool. The whole watch has been PVD coated. Now, how long that actually lasts for, I don't know. I'm just seeing, are these marked? Yeah, these are actually recessed, these markers on there, which I always like, because I always think that if ever the coating was to come off, you can actually reapply fresh enamel to that and it will still look great. Now, purchasing the bezel, you've got this knurled piece around the side here, which is quite easy to grab. And what makes it easier to grab is the fact that it actually sculpts away from you. So when you grab it, it's so nice and easy. Now, as we come past this, the case design is just a bit wacky, isn't it? It's kind of all over the place. I like it again. It's interesting. There's little things you keep noticing on there. And obviously, the main thing with this is that we don't have a crown on the side. We have like a crown at the top there. So a nice feature they've done is put this orange tab around there. So if you can see that, the crown is not down. So screw it down there, and as you can see, it's gone. It is a sign crown. You do get 200 meters of water resistance with this watch, so it's a proper take it anywhere kind of watch. But then you've got these weird lugs going on. Now, this is a little bit weird and wonderful. So basically, to keep it so it will fit on a smaller wrist, they have put these pieces on there. Because if you had normal lugs out here, it would be incredibly too long for a standard kind of size wrist. So that means that it can bend right down onto a wrist like this. And that just means it's a lot easier to actually size for people. One thing, I was seeing these at first, I had no idea what they were, but then I realised as you close the the end links there, they rest up upon it and they stop it from travelling a bit too far and then possibly fouling on the bezel. So that's what those marks are, and obviously they've got cut out on this side for that side. And it looks great. I think so. Anyway, under the back there is a Ronda movement. Now, that should be, it's a quartz movement. You're probably going to get, only a few seconds a month or so, discrepancy with this. I dare say it should be very reliable. I looked up on the Ronda website, because I don't actually state it on the Laco website, but it looks like you get round about 3.5, 4 years on, well, should be as a minimal of battery life out of this watch. So it's always good to know. Now, the actual strap on this watch is the only bit where I think it could be a little bit better. It kind of reminds me of that kind of rubber you used to get on the old-fashioned watches, where they kind of feel like eventually one day it might crack. I don't know. I could be completely wrong. But the good thing is you can always replace these, because they are, if I'm right, just normal spring bars underneath there. So if you want to put a leather strap on that, if you want to put your own personal strap of choice, if it's silicone, vulcanized rubber, whatever, you can actually swap that over. I do like you actually do have a PVD buckle on the end of there as well. And let's put it on my wrist so you got an idea how it looks. Quick wrist check. I'm still wearing my Zinn new to me 656, and as I say, Bob is wearing his quartz he's got on there, the Zinn EZM2, the original EZM2 GSG9, and that is such a cool watch. Now this one, as I say, it's first of all, my wrist size is 7.25 inches, around about 18.5 centimeters, and that's that on my wrist. You see how the lugs really do bend quite down, and so it sits actually really quite flat on the wrist, and I think it looks really good. And at its price point, I think the retail is $4.90, but I dare say if you speak very nicely, you might get a discount on that. And so it does it starts to put this watch in a very affordable place for quite a few people, really. I personally like it. I think you're getting a cool brand name, with a watch which doesn't look like any other watch, and I like the fact that it stands out and it's a bit different. For a fact, if you went out with this, people are going to ask you about it. It's got that kind of definite funky look to it, and yeah, we like that, don't we? We like something a little bit different. So anyway, guys, I'm going to leave you to it at that, but most importantly, you'll stay safe up there, so take care. Bye.